Hey, welcome back to Final Trade. I wanted to have a talk today about my philosophy on investing in collectible cards. And I like to play with collectible cards. I like to hold them and touch them and smell them and feel them and just reminisce about them and everything. But there's a financial side to this too. And I know a lot of people are becoming more and more interested in that. Prices are kind of going crazy in the last year and probably will into the future. So I just kind of wanted to tell you what my thoughts on this are. And, I hate using the word investing because it feels kind of silly because it's like, well, they're pieces of cardboard, but, a lot of them are really scarce and they are investable assets. And there's certainly a stigma that some people have about, hey, I want to get those cheap to play with. Don't spend money investing in them because it drives up the cost. And well, welcome to the real world. People are going to buy things they want, whether they intend to play with them or simply look at them or hold them as appreciating assets. So there's it's not good or bad. It's just a thing people do, and you're in the same market they are. So that's the reality. Now, when I think about investing in this stuff, I kind of have three broad categories that I want to quote unquote invest in. Okay. And so the first is new sealed product. And so, this is a Flesh and Blood first edition hero deck box. And, this originally sold for somewhere around $100. And I don't know, I glanced on TCG Player and it's, about $600 now. And that was maybe 15 months ago it was new, something like that. So, the great thing about investing in new sealed product is you can wrap a lot of money up into a pretty small volume. And then when you go to sell it, it's a lot of money in one little item. So you can make one transaction and clear a lot of revenue. And so that makes it kind of nice. It's not like when you're dealing with singles where you may need to do lots of transactions to add up to the same relative profit. So the second broad category that I have is, we'll say this stuff here. And this is cards that are kind of sentimental to me. You'll recognize some of those. There's some commons in there. There's some uncommons. There's a few rares in there. And you'll see, you may be able to recognize there's some 4th and 5th edition. It's going to be a long time before a lot of 4th and 5th edition cards command a lot of money. But the reason I have these is that I like them. These are cards I loved when I played 20 years ago. They're sentimental to me. And so I go out and I look for near mint condition cards of the ones I like. And I buy them and I say, well, which ones are basically centered well enough to be graded? And one day I'll send them off to be graded. Now, you probably know the grading houses are kind of in shambles right now. And the prices have all gone crazy. And if you watch my video on hybrid grading approaches, AI method of grading, you already know my thoughts on what the future is, which is the prices to grade things are going to come way down. But, the interesting thing about grading is when you get into cards that are just in really good condition, the value of the card increases more and more and more the better condition it's in. And also the compound annual growth rate of the value of the card will be higher when it's in better condition. So if you have something that grades a 10, it's just going to appreciate in value faster than one that's graded a 9 or even a 9.5. And so that's why I only want to deal when I'm buying single cards, I only want to buy things that are selling as near mint, because I don't want to mess with light played, moderate play, heavy play, damage cards, not for anything that I'm considering an investment. And so you just want to do that because your long-term growth rate is going to be better with those cards. If you bought all the same dollar value worth of damaged cards, they would not grow in price as quickly. And so that's why I go for these. And again, my intent is to one day grade them because I want to have them protected. I want them to be slabbed so that, 20 years from now, I can pull them out and I can just look at them and hold them, and they have sentimental value to me. Now, when I go and I buy some of these, I'll typically buy 4 or 5 copies at a time. And the reason I do that is you're always gambling on the centering of a card. Because when you buy, say, off of TCG Player, they only sell according to condition. And so, if it's near mint, well, everyone's got kind of a little subjective interpretation of what near mint is or how much damage it could have and still be near mint. But that doesn't touch on the centering. And so when you buy 4 or 5, you increase the odds that you're going to get at least one that will grade really well on centering. Now, eventually, when I send all these cards in, and yeah, I have a much bigger pile than this of these. I just took some representative ones. When I send them in, I'll send in 4 near mint copies of revised Serra Angels. And, if one comes back a 10, awesome. I'll keep that one for my collection and I'll sell the rest, because what I'll be looking to do is defer the costs of having bought several copies of each of these, defer the costs of having graded all of them, and then hopefully I just get to keep one essentially for free, maybe with a little bit of return on investment for the time I've had this capital tied up. And that's it. That's all I'm looking for here, because these are just cards I love. A lot of people will see stuff like Unholy Strength and say, you are crazy, that's a worthless card. Yep, it's pretty worthless, but I love it. And so then the last of the 3 categories of investable things is kind of all of these individual cards here. And you may recognize these are reserved list cards. So they're cards that Wizards of the Coast or WotC has promised they will never reprint, with some kind of caveats, but it guarantees their scarcity into the future. And so it's the same kind of thing. I buy 3 or 4 or 5 copies at a time. I buy them in near mint quality, and then one day when, again, the grading houses get their business sorted out, I'll send them all in and I'll have them graded. And no, I'm not some diamond hand who will hold forever. I'm looking to get a return on investment from this stuff eventually. Though my time horizon is flexible, I could wait years and years and be okay. But again, it's look for those near mint cards in the raw and then get them graded. And hopefully they come back graded 9s, 9.5s, maybe a 10 once in a while. And then you'll make a good return on it. And so don't waste time on light play, medium play, heavy play damage. Don't waste time on that. Only go for the near mint. Go for stuff like reserve list, where they are protected. They're not going to be reprinted over and over and over again and hurt your investment. And, once in a while, do something nice for yourself. Buy some cards that you just love, something you're sentimental about, something that will just make you happy to look at. Even if it's, a damaged copy of a Cursed Scroll, because you love Cursed Scroll, but man, you don't want to spend $40 on a near mint Cursed Scroll. Buy yourself something that makes you happy too in the meantime, because a lot of this stuff, it's going to get packed back in a box after I film this video, and I may not look at it again for a year, for 2 years, until it's time to finally send them off to be graded. And so, one other thing, Crusade here, I know some of you will pick this out and you'll say, hey, that's not a reserved list card, it's banned. Well, a banned card is de facto reserved list. In fact, it may even be better, because there would be all the fake outrage if WotC ever reprinted it. But if WotC completely went back on the reserve list and said, man, all you guys can just get over it, we're going to reprint everything. If WotC came out with a secret layer drop and said it'll be fancy artwork Power 9, it will be 4 copies of each, and it's $10,000, they would sell as many as they could print, and they would hose everybody who had original Power 9. Now, there would still be collector's value in the history of those things, but, WotC could go against the reserve list one day, but it's not socially acceptable, and the internet would get mad if they went against the banned cards and ever started reprinting them again. And so banned cards are as good as reserved list. In fact, they're probably better. So that's kind of my philosophy on this, the kind of things I invest in. There's some other points. If you if you start with higher value cards, you'll simplify your life a bit because if you expect that every reserve list card might say double in price over so many years, then if you start with ones that are $100 each instead of 10 that are $10 each, you simplify your life in terms of the number of transactions you have to make, both acquiring the cards, getting them graded, and eventually selling them to realize a profit. And so, don't go through and get on TCG and just buy every reserve list card that's $5 or less. You'll just be creating a giant headache for yourself with the volume of cards you're going to mess with. Because again, you want this to be fun. You want it to be a nice hobby. You want to touch the cards and look at them and everything. But you don't want to have to inventory tens of thousands of cards and mess around with all these transactions one day when you start trying to sell some of these for money. So stick to the higher cost stuff, the higher quality stuff, only near mint, and the protected cards, reserve lists, the new product, because man, when new product goes out of print, almost like clockwork, its price spikes 10, 15, 20% as soon as it goes out of print, and then it only goes up from there. Now, occasionally it'll pull back a little bit if it goes up too quick, but on the 1 year long snapshots of price history, it's almost always up. It's hard to find periods where products go down over time periods like that. So just keep that in mind. And again, buy something that you love once in a while. Treat yourself and have fun. So if you like this kind of thing, the best thing you can do to support me is hit subscribe, hit the like, leave a comment if you have a question. If you think any of this is wrong, if you think there's something better to invest in card game wise or whatever, let me know what you think about that. And thanks for watching.